My name is Ella, and I was getting ready for my 30th birthday. I had big plans to celebrate it at my house, the one I bought 2 years ago. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was mine, and I was proud of it. I spent weeks getting ready. I made custom invitations and mailed them out to all my close family. I even hired a caterer and planned every small detail, down to the cake and table settings. I was excited. It was the first time I felt like I was finally doing something for myself, on my own terms. The night before the party, I was finishing up cleaning when I got a message on my phone. It was a video. At first, I almost didn't open it. It was from someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, my ex Matt. We didn't end badly, just kind of faded out, so it was surprising to hear from him. The message was short. You need to see this. Don't ignore it. I pressed play. The video started with Matt talking directly into the camera. He looked serious, not angry, not bitter, just concerned. He said he had found something he thought I deserved to know. I didn't understand what he meant until the screen changed. It showed a group chat. My family's names were there. My mom, dad, sister Claire, even my aunt. But not mine. It was a family group chat I wasn't part of. The video cut off before showing too much. Matt said there was more, but he wanted me to decide if I was ready to see it. I didn't know what to think. Why would Matt send me something like this now? Part of me thought maybe it was just drama or a misunderstanding. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling in my stomach. Something felt off. I thought back to recent texts from my sister. They felt cold, kind of forced. My mom had called 2 days ago, but only asked about the food, not about me. And my dad hadn't even replied to the invite, just sent a thumbs-up emoji. I sat there on my couch, the night before what was supposed to be the happiest day I'd had in years, and suddenly I felt unsure. I looked around at the balloons, the food, the decorations. I thought about all the hours I'd spent making sure everything was perfect. But now, I didn't feel excited. I felt nervous. Not just about the party, but about what I didn't know yet, what that group chat said, and why my ex thought I needed to see it before anyone else did. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept looking at my phone, waiting, thinking. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how bad it was yet. When people looked at my family from the outside, they probably thought we were close. We smiled in pictures, showed up at birthdays, and said all the right things. But behind all those smiles, there was always something else. It was hard to explain to anyone who didn't grow up with it. It wasn't loud fights or big arguments. It was quieter than that. Small things that added up over time and made me feel like I never really belonged. My mom always had a way of saying things that sounded kind on the surface, but left me feeling small. If I got a promotion at work, she'd smile and say, "That's great, honey, but don't you think it's a little too much stress for someone like you?" If I bought something nice for myself, she'd ask, "How much did that cost?" with a raised eyebrow. She never said I wasn't good enough, but she didn't have to. Her tone did the work for her. My sister Claire was always the golden one. She was pretty, smart, and seemed to do everything right. At least, that's what my parents saw. She knew how to play the role. Perfect daughter, perfect wife, perfect mom. But growing up with her was hard. She competed with me even when I didn't want to compete. If I bought a dress, she'd show up the next day with a newer one. If I posted a picture, she'd post 5. If I got good news, she'd somehow top it. And every time, our parents would laugh and say, "That's just how sisters are." My dad wasn't mean, but he wasn't really there either. He sat in the room, said a few words, nodded now and then, but never got involved. If my mom was being cold, or Claire was being fake, he didn't stop it. He just stayed quiet. Over time, I learned not to expect anything different. As I cleaned up the living room and checked on the food delivery schedule, I couldn't stop my mind from drifting. I remembered the time I got accepted into a good college and my mom said, "Claire got into that school too, but she turned it down." Or when I tried to tell them about a difficult time I was going through, and my dad said, "Everyone has problems, Ella." I remembered birthdays where Claire's gift was big and shiny, and mine was a sweater on sale. I remembered holidays where I did all the work, and no one said thank you. Just little things, again and again, like tiny paper cuts. But I kept trying. I told myself they loved me in their own way, that maybe I was just too sensitive, that I needed to stop expecting so much. I spent years doing that, trying to be easy, quiet, helpful, trying not to take up too much space. As I folded the last stack of napkins and checked the guest list again, I wondered why I was still hoping this time would be different. Maybe because it was my house, my party, Maybe I thought they'd finally see me, not just the version of me they liked to talk about or joke about when I wasn't around. I wanted them to show up for me, for real. But deep down, something didn't feel right. And when I looked back on all those little memories, it made me wonder what I had missed. I sat on the couch holding my phone. The house was quiet, just the soft hum of the fridge and the tick of the wall clock. I stared at the message Matt had sent me. Part of me wanted to forget it, just swipe it away and pretend I never saw it. But my thumb moved on its own, and I tapped the video. Matt's face filled the screen. He looked serious. Not angry, not sad. Just calm and clear, like he had thought a lot before recording this. He said he wasn't trying to hurt me. He said he didn't want to get involved, but after seeing what he saw, he couldn't stay silent. Then he said something that made my stomach tighten. He said Claire was planning something. And not just Claire, my parents too. He said they had been talking about me for weeks behind my back. The video changed. It wasn't just him talking anymore. It showed a screen recording, Matt's phone screen. He was in a group chat. The name at the top said Fam Talk. I didn't recognize it. I wasn't part of it. But the names in the chat were all people I knew, my mom, my dad, Claire, and a few others. At first, it didn't even make sense. They were joking about something. Then I saw my name. They were talking about my house. Claire said it looked like something out of a catalog from 5 years ago. My mom said, she tries so hard to look like she's doing well. Someone else, maybe my aunt, joked about how I was so dramatic and probably planned the party just to get attention. Then my dad wrote, let her have her moment. We'll deal with it on the day. I paused the video. I needed a second. My heart was racing. My face felt hot. I wanted to stop watching, but I couldn't. When I pressed play again, I saw more messages. Claire was the one talking most. She said I was pulling away from the family, and that someone needed to wake her up. My mom replied, let's do it when we're all together. Maybe it'll finally get through to her. Then Claire said something I'll never forget. We'll turn the party into an intervention. She won't see it coming. That word, intervention, kept echoing in my head. Like I was some problem they needed to fix. Like the whole thing was a trap. They had accepted the invitations, planned what they would wear, what they would bring, and all the while they were planning to corner me in my own house on my birthday. The video ended with Matt saying, I don't know why they're doing this, but I thought you should see it before it's too late. I just sat there, staring at the screen. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just felt cold, like something inside me had gone quiet. I thought about all the work I put into the party, all the hope I had, and I felt something shift. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't second-guessing. I knew exactly what I had to do. Matt sent me the full chat. Not just the short clip from the video. He had saved screenshots and screen recordings from weeks back. I opened them one by one. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. These were conversations between people I had known all my life. People I called family. But the words didn't feel like family. They felt sharp, cold, and cruel. The first messages I read were about me buying the house. Claire had sent a picture of my living room I once shared on Facebook. She wrote, she really thinks she's doing something, doesn't she? My mom responded with, that house won't make her better than anyone. My dad added, let her play grown-up. She still runs to HR for every little thing at work. They joked about my job, my clothes, even my cooking. Claire said I was trying to live like an influencer with a receptionist's salary. Someone asked if I was still single. My mom said, of course she is. Who wants to deal with that attitude? The more I read, the more it felt like I was reading strangers talking about someone they didn't even like. But they were talking about me. The worst part was how normal it all looked. No one told them to stop. No one stood up for me. They just added on message after message, like it was all harmless. Then the conversation shifted. It wasn't just mocking. It was planning. Claire said I had been pulling away for too long, acting like I was better than the rest of them. She said I needed a wake-up call. My mom agreed. She wrote, she doesn't listen to advice, so maybe a little pressure will work. They weren't just planning to talk to me. They wanted to corner me at my own party. They used that word again, intervention. Claire said it had to be done when I least expected it. She said, we'll do it with a smile. Make her feel safe, then drop it all at once. My dad said, don't forget the papers. I stopped. I scrolled back. Papers? Further down, I found the messages. Claire brought up the family property. It was land that had been in our family for years. Nothing huge, but important. It had been left for me, Claire, and one cousin to manage together. But they wanted to change that. Claire wrote, if we get her to sign the transfer, we can move forward without her slowing things down. My mom asked how they'd convince me. Claire said, we'll use the guilt card. Tell her she's not present, she's cold, she abandoned us. She'll give in. That's when I felt something break inside me. Not sadness. Not confusion. Just something solid and final. I didn't know how they could write those things and still smile in my face. I didn't understand how people who claimed to love me could spend this much time tearing me apart behind my back. But now I knew the truth. I had read every word. They weren't coming to celebrate my birthday. They were coming for something else. I wasn't their sister, daughter, or cousin in those messages. I was a target. I sat there, my phone still in my hand, the screen glowing in the dark. And I realized something very clearly. This wasn't about one message or one plan. This had been going on for a long time. I just never saw it. Until now. I sat in silence for a long time. My phone was still in my hand, but I couldn't look at it anymore. My body felt heavy, like the weight of everything I had just seen was pressing down on me. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I just felt still, like something inside me had gone quiet. I knew there was no going back to how things were. I couldn't pretend anymore. I stood up and looked around my house. The table was set. The lights were warm. Decorations hung across the walls. The food was scheduled. Everything was ready for the party. But I wasn't. I walked to the kitchen, picked up my phone, and opened the message app. I wrote a short note and sent it to everyone on the guest list. Party's off. Family emergency. That was all I said. No details. No follow-up. I didn't wait for replies. I turned off my phone and placed it face down on the table. Then I started thinking, not just about the party, but about everything that had happened. I had spent years staying quiet. I had stayed calm. I had let them say and do things because I didn't want to cause drama. I thought keeping the peace meant keeping the family together. But now I saw it clearly. They had counted on me staying silent. They believed I wouldn't fight back. They were wrong. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to argue. I wanted them to see the truth, the whole truth. I wanted them to hear it from me. So I made a plan. I took out my camera. I set it up in my living room, right in front of the spot where I had planned to blow out candles and open gifts. I sat down, looked into the lens, and pressed record. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just spoke. I talked about the things they said in that group chat. I shared parts of the messages, one by one. I showed the screenshots, even read some aloud. Then I added voice clips. I recorded myself talking about things that had happened over the years. Small moments, things I never told anyone. I added pictures, old video clips, memories they thought I forgot. I told the story from my side. Quietly, clearly, honestly. It took hours. I edited it all together into one long video. When it was finished, I watched it from beginning to end. Not to check the sound or the cuts, but to remind myself why I was doing that. I wasn't doing it to hurt them. I was doing it because I finally saw things clearly. They didn't love me the way I thought they did, and I couldn't pretend anymore. I saved the video and set it up to send at the right time. Then I cleaned up the party setup. I took down the decorations and put the dishes away. I threw out the balloons. I didn't feel sad. I felt calm. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally doing something for myself. Not for approval, not for attention, but for truth. Something had changed in me. I was no longer waiting for them to see me. I had decided to show them who I really was. The day of the party came. The sun was out. The sky was clear. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Just like they planned. Around noon, my family started to arrive. They showed up smiling, dressed in nice clothes, holding wrapped gifts and covered dishes. Some even brought wine. They stood at my front door, chatting and laughing like everything was normal. They knocked, then rang the doorbell. Again and again. One of them tried calling me. Another looked through the window. But the house was quiet. Lights were on, but no one came to the door. After a few minutes of confusion, each person's phone buzzed at the same time. It was a message, just a link. No words. They clicked it. The video began with me sitting on my couch. Calm, straight-faced. I looked into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, you know you're not coming inside. Not today. But I want you to know why." Then the screen changed. It showed pieces of the group chat, word by word, name by name. Their messages. Their jokes. Their plans. No edits. No voice raised. Just truth. I read their words out loud. She thinks she's better than us. Let her play house. She's pulling away. I let them hear it all, from their own mouths. Then came the photos. Messages from over the years. Moments they said didn't matter. Times they rolled their eyes at me. Times they laughed behind my back. I reminded them of things they thought I'd forgotten. Like when Claire told me to my face that she supported me, while texting in the group that I was a waste of space. Or when my mom hugged me at Christmas, right after joking in the chat that I would probably fail at love just like everything else. I paused in the video and said, "You smiled at me while talking behind my back. You planned to use my birthday to shame me. You were going to trap me in my own home." My voice was calm. No yelling. No tears. But you can't betray someone who's already watching. Then the screen faded to black. The last sound in the video was the click of a lock. Not a loud sound. Just a soft, clear click. The sound of a door being closed for good. Back at the house, they stood there, watching it. No one said much after that. Some looked at their phones. Some looked at each other. But no one knocked again. Inside the house, I stood in the hallway, listening quietly. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel angry. I felt done. I didn't need to open the door. I had already opened their eyes. Or at least I had tried. What they did next wasn't up to me. They had made their plans. And I had made mine. The difference was mine didn't require lies. Just the truth. I watched as they slowly walked back to their cars. One by one. No more laughter. No more smiles. They came with gifts, but they left with silence. and I stood behind the door, still and steady, knowing they finally saw who I really was. After the video, everything changed. I didn't hear from anyone right away. No calls, no messages. Just quiet. But it didn't stay quiet for long. Matt had told me something before. People like this always try to control the story. And he was right. A few days after the party, the group chat started falling apart. Matt kept sending me updates. Screenshots, voice notes. The same people who had laughed together were now turning on each other. Claire tried to take control first. She told everyone that the video was edited and taken out of context. She said I was just being dramatic and that I always overreact. But the others had seen the messages, the real ones, word for word. It wasn't just my side, it was their own words looking back at them. Claire kept posting long messages, trying to explain everything away. But no one was really buying it. Then my parents started arguing with. My mom blamed Claire, saying she had taken things too far. My dad said they never agreed to the video messages being exposed. Claire snapped back, saying they were all in on it. Suddenly, the group that was once full of jokes about me was now full of fights between them. That's when I decided to share the truth wider, but quietly. I uploaded the video to a private Facebook group that included some extended family. I didn't put my name on it. I just posted it with the caption, "Sometimes the truth needs no voice." Just light. No one outside the family would understand what it meant, but the people who needed to see it would. It didn't take long. My cousin Emily called me that night. She was crying. She said she had no idea they were treating me like that. She said she was sorry for not noticing sooner. I could hear the pain in her voice. Not just for me, but for the family she thought she knew. My aunt sent a message the next morning. I had no idea. "I'm so sorry." More messages followed. A few cousins. One uncle. Even someone I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. They weren't angry. They were shocked. Some were quiet. Some were kind. No one tried to excuse it. I didn't reply to all of them. I didn't need to. I just read the words and let them land. For the first time, people saw what I had been living through. And it wasn't me saying it. It was the truth speaking for itself. Meanwhile, the family that used to hold everything together with fake smiles and empty words was starting to break apart. The group chat that once mocked me was now full of blame and silence. They didn't expect to be seen. They didn't expect me to speak. And now they didn't know how to handle it. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel powerful. I felt real. Like for once, the mask had been taken off. Not mine, theirs. The truth had been hiding in plain sight. All it needed was someone brave enough to show it. And I did. 2 days later, there was a knock at my door. Not a soft one. It was loud and fast. I didn't even need to check. I knew it was her. "Claire." I stood still for a moment, thinking. Then I walked to the door and opened it just a little. Not wide. Just enough to see her face. She was standing there, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "You think this is funny?" she said, without even saying hello. "You made a scene. You embarrassed everyone. You turned the whole family against each other." I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her. Her face was red, her voice tense, but her words felt empty. She was used to being in control. This time, she wasn't. "I didn't ruin anything," I said calmly. "I just gave you a mirror." Her jaw tightened. "You think you're the victim? After everything we've done for you? You live in your own world. You always have. This is why no one can stand being around you." I still didn't open the door all the way. I didn't invite her in. I didn't let her move past the line. "You planned to lie to me in my own house," I said. "You wrote things you'd never dare say to my face. Now that it's out in the open, you want to act like I'm the one who caused the damage." Claire shook her head. "No one meant to hurt you. You took everything out of context. That video was cruel. You made us look like monsters." "You did that yourselves," I replied. "I just stopped covering it up." She stepped forward, trying to get closer to the door. But I didn't move. "You think this makes you brave?" she snapped. "You're alone now. Do you even realize that? No one is ever going to trust you again." I looked at her and said, "If keeping people's trust means staying quiet while they tear me down, then I don't want it." She blinked, like she didn't know what to say to that. For once, Claire didn't have the last word ready. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't try to explain any more. I just looked at her for a moment, then quietly said, "You should go." And I closed the door. I could still hear her on the other side. First silence. Then the sound of her yelling something I didn't catch. Then footsteps walking away fast. I stood there, hands still on the door, heart beating hard, but steady. She had come to shake me, to guilt me, to pull me back into that space where I was always wrong and she was always right. But I didn't let her in. Not into my house and not into my mind. She left the same way she came, angry, loud, and blaming everyone but herself. And me? I stayed behind the door, quiet and clear. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel small. I felt strong, because for the first time, I had said no, and meant it. The days that followed were quiet. No more knocks at the door. No more messages or calls. The family didn't try again. No one showed up. No one asked questions. The noise stopped. All the shouting, blaming, and pretending gone. At first, it felt strange. After so much drama, the silence felt almost too quiet. I kept waiting for something. Maybe another outburst. Maybe someone trying to fix things. But nothing came. Then one evening, I got an email. It was from my dad. He didn't say sorry. Not really. He said things like, "We didn't mean for it to go that far," and "This whole thing got blown out of proportion." He didn't mention the messages. He didn't mention what they planned to do at the party. He just wrote, "We still care about you, no matter what you think." I read it once. Slowly. Then I closed it. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. That kind of message wasn't for healing. It was just words. Safe words. The kind that avoid truth. And I didn't need them anymore. I stood in my kitchen and looked around. The lights were soft. The air felt still. My house, my space, felt different now. For the first time, it felt truly mine. No one was coming in with fake smiles. No one was bringing heavy words hidden behind polite tone. I stepped outside. The evening air was cool against my skin. I didn't bring my phone. I didn't need music or noise. Just a walk. Just myself. I walked down the street slowly, breathing in the calm. I looked up at the sky. The stars were just starting to show. The world was quiet. No one was asking me to explain myself. No one was making me feel less. I didn't feel like a problem to solve. I didn't feel like I had to shrink to be accepted. I felt light. My birthday didn't end with a party. There were no candles, no clapping, no group photos. But there was peace. And that peace felt more like a gift than anything I could have unwrapped. I thought about everything that had happened. All the things I learned. All the masks that had fallen off. I didn't feel regret. I didn't wish for things to go back to how they were. I had seen too much. I had finally listened to my own voice. And it was enough. As I walked back home, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. Not just from them, but from the need to prove anything. I didn't have to fix what was never whole. I didn't have to pretend anymore. The silence they left behind wasn't empty. It was clean. And I had no plans to fill it. A few weeks passed. Life felt calm. I was slowly getting back to myself. I worked, cooked, read, and went on walks. My phone was quiet. The house stayed peaceful. I didn't hear from my family again, and I was okay with that. One afternoon, I found a small package at my front door. There was no return name, just my address written neatly on the label. I brought it inside and opened it carefully. Inside was an envelope and a folded letter. The handwriting was old but familiar. It was from my grandmother. She had passed away a year before, but I remembered how quiet and wise she had always been. She didn't say much during family gatherings, but when she did speak, people listened. I unfolded the letter and began to read. She wrote that she had always noticed more than she let on, that she saw how I was treated, even when no one thought she did. She said she had been proud of me, not for the things I owned or the job I had, but for the way I stayed kind in a house that often didn't feel warm. Then she wrote something that made me stop and hold my breath. She said the family had tried to change part of her will after she passed, but that she had left an original signed copy with someone she trusted, someone who had mailed it to me now. She said I was always meant to have full ownership of the family asset they tried to take from me. The letter ended with words I'll never forget. Blood may be thicker than water, but sometimes poison is thicker than both. I hope you never let either drown who you are. I sat there for a long time, holding the paper. I didn't cry. I just felt warm, seen. Even in silence, she had stood by me. She had believed me. And now, in her own quiet way, she had spoken up. I opened the other envelope. Inside was the document, stamped, signed, and clear. There was no mistake. The land was mine. Not because I fought for it, because it had always been mine. I placed the letter in a small box with a few other things that mattered to me. Things I kept close, not because they were valuable, but because they held truth. In that moment, I felt something new, not anger, not sadness. Just peace. Sometimes the loudest support comes in whispers, and sometimes the best gifts are the ones that come with no noise, no spotlight, just love.